Before we get into this episode, I wanted to introduce one of the partners for the show, Move Pre-Workout. I've been using this over the last year and can massively see the benefit with all my training. And I thought I'd invite Tom along, who was involved in the formulation.
Cheers, Mark. Obviously delighted to be supporting the podcast. And so Move Pre-Workout, we've got a strength-based formula, but this one is specifically designed for endurance athletes. And it's one of the first of its kind. We're just focusing on really high-quality ingredients that are going to benefit endurance performance of any kind. So, yeah, we're really excited by the product and delighted to be supporting podcasts like yourself.
Oh, it's amazing. And this is something that you're specifically taking before your training, before your rides, to be in best possible shape. I'd encourage you to give it a try. Go to movepreworkout.com and for a 20% discount, put the word endurance in at checkout. On with the show. Well, a warm welcome to the Endurance Podcast. If this is the first episode you're tuning into, then there's plenty more to enjoy. Look back through the archives. But you're catching up with us at Kendal Mountain Festival. Day 2 for us recording. We had a couple of amazing conversations yesterday with Renee and Helen, so please do check them out. This morning we're joined by Mitch Hutchcraft, and joking apart, when I introduced the idea to my co-presenter Martin of bringing Mitch along, the first thing he said was, "Is that his real name or is that a stage name?" So we'll maybe start with this sort of like...
I think it's the worst name in the world. I would have picked something better than that.
No,
it's a brilliant name.
Properly Hollywood, isn't it? I mean, what a name to start with. But
it's like Vin Diesel.
It's just the most boring plain English name in the world.
No, we like it.
I appreciate it.
Right, well, how's that for a proper introduction? We'll get into the amazing adventures of this man in a second. But... well, for those who are watching this in the future, you don't get to enjoy the amazing festival which my live audience are here to enjoy today. So just to prove that we're not doing this online, live audience, say good morning. Good morning. Morning. Thanks for joining us. It's a bit dreich outside, but there's already some sort of mountain marathon running events going on, hundreds of amazing films being shown. If you've not had a chance to come to Kendal before, then it's an absolute treasure trove of adventure. So one to put in the calendar perhaps for next year. And for those that are watching or listening to this in the future, we're actually planning to put this podcast out probably April, May time to tie in with Mitch, who has not just been on some epic adventures over the last 4 or 5 years, but is about to become an author, and I think your book's going to be published at that time of year. So we'll try and get you to number 1 in the bestsellers list by getting the podcast out in time.
Touch wood.
So without further ado, let's bring Martin into the conversation, and then we'll properly get into Mitch's adventures. Martin, day 1 of Kendal, we had a blast, couple of podcast recordings, and got a bit of a chilly bike ride in as well. What's your first impression of Kendal? It's the first time you've been here.
Yeah, it's my first time at Kendal Mountain Festival. I've been to Kendal before, but never to the Mountain Festival. It's been really good fun. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. We had 2 amazing guests yesterday, both completely different and really interesting. We got a really good freezing cold bike ride in between. Came back with a bright red nose. And yeah, it's been really good so far. Yes, I'm looking forward to today.
And it's just before this concept of endurance. I mean, it's interesting. Just we're gonna reflect on this mission that we've got next year to go 3,500 miles across Europe. And you were always pretty keen to make it more than just about your endurance journey. You know, you wanted to share it in a way that made sense to others and benefit some amazing charities. And the reason that I bring that up at this point in the conversation is because the 2 charities we're looking forward to supporting in a big way through 2026 is Yorkshire's Children's Charity, and of course proud Yorkshireman Martin, but and also the My Name's Doddy Foundation, which has got an amazing tie-in with some of the great work that Mitch has done as well. So just your thoughts again in terms of, we're now well into the recording of the Endurance Podcast series, and it's the first time that you've been brought into this world of media and storytelling, but you seem to be thriving. You seem to be enjoying it.
Yeah, well, I've certainly been on a journey. So when I first started being in front of the camera through the couple of rides we've done over the last 2 years, I was seriously monotone. I would talk like this, and I'd really, have no change in my tone. And then I'd listen back and I'd think, why am I talking like that? I need to.
Mate, yeah, I was the same.
Yeah, because I don't talk like that normally. So it's been a bit of a journey and adventure of how to pretend the camera's out there, really, and just try and be more myself, try and be just like I am when the cameras aren't there. Because as soon as the cameras are there, for an unknown reason, I'd just become this monotone voice that never changes and talk like this. And it's really weird. And my business partner, Steve, as well, exactly the same. Yeah. So we were both like, because he was involved in this year's adventure. We rode bikes with, like, not motorbikes, bikes what you pedal, just for clarity, from Leeds, where I'm from, to Nice in the south of France. And we had this race against an electric vehicle. Because of the industry we're in car hire, we had a race against an electric vehicle. So I made it as hard as possible for him, obviously because I wanted to win. And he went from Leeds to Nice, except for he had to cross over to Amsterdam and then drive through 20 countries in Europe. So he went all the way through Germany, Poland, right around the east and down the south into the not Baltics.
Balkans, and
Balkans.
then ended up coming right. I mean, it was close.
Italy.
It was close.
It was close-ish. We were ahead of schedule, and he was on schedule. He was a bit annoyed that we were ahead of schedule.
And I think what surprised everyone was that sort of storytelling element. So, I mean, I think what's really cool about the whole endurance thing is not just the media journey and obviously telling these interesting stories, the charities involved, but the fact that it's one thing being able to do it, and it's another thing being able to sort of explain it in a way that other people can make sense of it. And I know, bringing Mitch into the conversation, but it's something you're massively passionate about, following your social media. You can get out there and smash it and take on your own journeys for your own personal reasons, but then it's another thing trying to make sense of it that unlocks other people's ambitions. Yes, and so there's huge commonality. The other obvious thing to point out about you guys is you both started your career in the Marines. And there must be something about that military training that's giving you that sort of inner fire in the belly.
Certainly helps, doesn't it, mate?
Unbelievably, 20 years apart. I can't believe that.
Basically, it just gets you used to being comfortable being uncomfortable. Basically,
yeah. We look the same age.
Yeah. I'm hanging out.
There's something about the beards and the. Let's get stuck into it. For those who haven't come across the man, the legend. I came across you, I guess 3-4 years ago. You got in touch.
Yeah, years ago when I was trying to plan this epic journey. I never touched the bike more than 50 miles when I first messaged you. Never ridden more than 50 miles. So I thought I was sat in the guard room up at 45 Commando, and there was a little book there. And it was Mark's book, his first ride around the world, which was just incredible. So I remember reaching out to him for a bit of advice, and here we are today. It's so weird. It's amazing to be here, though, mate. So yeah,
it was funny. It was funny when you told me that story before. When you say little book, our first book that I wrote, my
incredible book.
My editor said to me when I handed in the manuscript, and you're about to finish your first book, so I'll be interested to see what your editor says. Yeah. My editor gave me the immortal line: "We can't put your audience through the same feat of endurance you've put yourself through." My 210,000 words had to be cut down slightly to something more manageable, but it was still a bit of an epic. But what made me chuckle when you told me that story about finding my book on base was it was in the chapel, in the church.
Yeah.
I love the idea of my book sitting next to the Bible.
The Bible, yeah.
I think we should sort that out.
It was a sign. It was definitely a sign.
And so you spent six years in the military. That sort of adventurous spirit was clearly there. For those that haven't followed your epics, give me a sense of what happened next. The Atlantic.
So yeah, long story short, I mean, ever since I was little, it's just been all I've done, all I've dreamt about was Everest and adventure. When I was 6, my nan gave me a book, and that was it. I told her when I was 6 years old. Galahad on Everest by Brian Blessed, if anyone's ever read it. Incredible book. Brian Blessed was my original inspiration. And years of kind of turmoil, the long and short it was. The inspiration was mainly my dad. He passed away when I was really young, when I was 19, 20. And then, so I joined the Marines, first things first, because I made a promise to him. On his last thing I said to him, on his deathbed was to make him, I promise I'm going to make you prouder than you ever dreamed possible. So I walked out of that room. I wasn't meant to be able to join the Marines because I'd had total knee reconstruction, ACL, meniscus, MCL done in Australia, but luckily there was no record on my British medical records. So when I came back to the UK, I just applied, and that was it. My first step to kind of redefine impossible, which is chapter 1 of the book. And then that was it. So 5.5, 6 years goes by, and out of nowhere, it's an amazing time when I was in there. It was incredible, but it's just luck of the draw when you join. There's not much happening. But I wouldn't change a second. It was incredible. So I left, and then within 2-3 months of leaving, got signed up to. My friend just randomly asked, "Do you want to row the Atlantic?" So me and a few guys rowed completely unsupported from Gran Canaria to Barbados, and that's where the idea of this Limitless came to my head. So that was 2021.
Rowing just pausing on that a second,
Yeah.
having attempted to row the Atlantic, you got plenty of thinking time. If you want an expedition that's just about you rowing ocean,
Well, that was pretty much it. You know, most crazy
there's
ideas.
nothing out there.
Nothing. Most crazy ideas.
Big waves, little waves.
Exactly, and and everything in between.
Very
It was basically an hour and a half on, an hour and a half, and then 3 hours on, 3 hours off, non-stop for 7 weeks across an entire ocean. It's a lot of time to think, and that's when I was rowing along basically. And I just remember I always dream was Everest, but then ever since I was kind of 16, I remember thinking I want to climb Everest. I want to go from zero. I want to go from zero to the top of this planet. You know what I mean? Just that sounds amazing. And the channel was always kind of a dream of mine as well. Because I always loved swimming. You know, I never swam for a club, never swam competitively, but I just always loved it. So the channel was there as well. And I remember rowing along. I just had like this light bulb moment. I was like, if I link the middle bit, it kind of becomes a triathlon. I turned around to my friend, my rowing partner Connor, and said, why don't we climb Everest from England? And obviously he just said, shut up, you idiot. And and then the idea was playing in my head. So I thought, that's it. I'll swim the channel, then I'll cycle across the planet, then I'll run and hike from Everest in just the most ultimate adventure of my entire life. And then after that, 2021, obviously 3 years properly to train. You don't just go from one step to there. I had lots of stuff to do. So first thing I did was... as I said, that's when I first got hold of you. I'd never cycled more than 50 miles in a day. So I bought a bike, took it to Croatia, set it up there and then, cycled 700k the entire Croatian coastline. And then a week later, flew to Florida and cycled from the Atlantic to the Pacific across the US as my training, you know, because in my head, it's like anything. You were training for a marathon, you do a half marathon. I knew that I needed to see how many Ks I could do sustainably, you know, and just get that in my head. 8 states, 5,000k from Florida, Atlantic Beach to Pacific Beach, and that was my training for that. After that, I thought I need to obviously get a big Himalayan expedition under my belt, so I went to climb Mama Dablam, which was nearly killed me as well. I had infections and that was not nice, but that was a tick in the box for that. And then I quit work. I bet everything on it 6 months before the expedition with only a couple of grand in my pocket. And and that was it. So 15th of September last year, it was day one with less than 5% of the money needed to even finish when we set off, 18 and a half hours across the channel. 237 days later, we stood on top of the world. And that's kind of the condensed version of the last 4 years. And I've only just been able to kind of shut off, but everyone said it wasn't possible, but that was the whole point, to prove that the only person that knows the definition of possible is you, the person sat there.
It's impossible until it's been done.
Exactly.
Just so I understand that, right? You set off at the start of this exhibition from Dover.
Yeah, day one was Dover.
With only 5% of the money.
Less than 5%, around that. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
So how did you raise the other 95%?
So I'd literally spent 6 months before I quit work, as I say. I went around like this. I was in the National Outdoor Expo, just spending every event, making thousands of phone calls, thousands of messages, going to every... It's like being here. I'd spend the whole 3 days just going to every single stall. No one would believe I could do it or it was possible. But then luckily, I think a couple of companies took a little chance. I'm talking like $5,000 here and there. Because I was going to be completely on my own as well, completely self-supported like I did across America. But then last minute I had the legend, really amazing photographer and videographer Stan Gaskell, who's the hardest geezers cameraman for the whole of Project Africa, running across Africa. So last minute I had him with me as well. So that kind of increased the budget we needed to have, because now we had like a production. Well, 2 people, him and my amazing producer Molly as well. So long story short, when we left, it was like, that was the hardest part. You know, physically, a 13,000k triathlon to Everest didn't bother me, but logistically, just the anxiety every single day, 18 hours, 19 minutes across the channel, not even knowing if I had the money or to even get across Europe, let alone to Everest, let alone the $50,000 to climb Everest. Didn't know who I was even climbing Everest with until I got to Baghdad, and then didn't even have Everest begin to pay off Everest until we got to Kathmandu. So basically, it was just kind of blind optimism. I'm lucky at ADHD, kind of always see the glass half full. That's why chapter 4 of the book is the relentless pursuit of positivity / cheerfulness in the face of adversity. How just smiling and getting through it and being positive can get you through anything. So started off with that and just kept grinding. Little bit by bit, people started to believe. People started to think this idiots might actually do it. Just about got across the finish line. And unlike you, luckily, I didn't have to remortgage my house, but I was ready to. I was very, very lucky that in the end, people believed, you know what I mean? So we got there in the end, yeah.
And you got across the channel, and if I understand correctly, you had a bit of a setback at the other side of the channel.
Oh, so much, yeah. So it took about 5-6 hours longer than what we should have done. So it was 18 hours, 19 minutes, the hardest day of my life by far. much higher than Everest, and I always knew it would be. You know, there's a reason why 5 times more people have swam the channel. I've summited Everest and swam the channel, and so all my training was on that day, and it broke me. Like literally, my tongue was dissolving, my rotator cuff had torn, my tendonitis in my wrists. For the last 5 hours, was just surviving. Literally, I'd aspirated, I'd inhaled so much water, I was basically drowning from. If it was another 1K, I don't think I would have made it. There was 13 boats that left England that day, and only my friend, who was a professional swimmer who I trained with, only he made it. He was the only other person that made it, but he made it before the weather came in. He made it in like 11 hours. All the other 11 boats got abandoned and turned round. And my captain I tried to cancel the swim about 5 times, but my coach just said no, he's going to do it. And we only just made it by the skin of our teeth.
So so there was only a couple finished that day.
There was me and my friend. That was it. He finished in 11 hours before the bad weather came in.
He was quicker than you.
He was much quicker than me. Yeah.
And
So when I went,
So you got. I mean, it's also tidal, so you're
so
getting
I was
pushed all
this
over the
close
place.
to being swept back out to sea and not making it to the beach in time. But we just kept on pushing, and 18 hours, 90 minutes later, it was tragic because one of the guys was doing arch to arch. I was started the exact same time as me, and he got pulled out of the water 500 meters from the beach in France. And the other 10 people had been pulled out as well. So my friend, it's basically we started at 3 o'clock in the morning, and my friend finished by like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was swimming until 11 p.m. at night, and about 5 p.m. the weather turned, and it was at the point where the boats wouldn't have even left the harbour in Dover, wouldn't even considered leaving the harbour if it was in them conditions. So the last 5 hours was just staring down into the dark depths and just remembering all these little lessons I've learned to get through. And then when I got there, it was that broken. I mean, I couldn't move for 2 days. My other half had to, if I wanted to have a drink, she'd have to sit me up. I had to go to the toilet. 2 people had to carry me. My tongue was dissolving. Chunks were coming off it. Literally, I was spitting out chunks. As I said, when I was the first 2 nights, I was just wheezing because of the amount of water in my lungs, and it was just horrible. So it took 5 or 6 days to be able to then get the bike out, which I never even assembled yet, a brand new bike that someone had given me, and then managed to kind of begin the ride one-handed. It was a Kendal bike that I kind of got given, but I never touched that bike until I got there because my focus was just on the swim. Everything could have been over on day one, you know what I mean? 90% of my training was just swimming because I knew it would be the hardest day and it could all be over. And as I learned with America and, anyone tomorrow, you could get on the bike tomorrow and cycle to India. Anyone could. The body completely conditions. If I'd trained so hard for the cycle, all it would have done was made the first 2 weeks a bit easier, made it a bit more comfortable. Non-weight bearing, I knew. So 90% of my training was swimming. I thought if I survive this, I can maybe make it. And I was so thankful because if it hadn't been so hard on that day, like we do, you train hard, and fight easy. I was so thankful for that because every day after that, because that had been the worst day of my life and so much harder than I anticipated, and made every day after that, I just thought back to that moment and was like, if I can get through that, I can get through anything. But so it took me 5-6 days to be able to get on the bike. And at first, I had Buddy with me, my golden retriever. It wasn't for a few days because that I started to pull him. But then I had him, so I pulled a 30-kilo golden retriever for the first 1,500 as well on the doggy trailer. So from kind of Netherlands to Budapest, pulled my golden retriever on a doggy trailer. So I was broken basically. It took I wanted it just to be a couple of day turnaround, but it took, I think it was 6 days in the end before I was physically able to get on that bike after that ordeal and begin the slow chug toward west east.
Your point about the cycling. I mean, having done ocean rowing and swimming and mountaineering and all sorts of stuff. The cycling is interesting because the first week's the bit where your body settles into that routine. And it's that difference between fitness and conditioning. People over-index on fitness.
People overestimate the fit. I need to be super fit, and it's not taking anything away.
You do, because then a higher FTP means you can cycle at a higher level within your
maintain
range,
longer,
blah blah blah. But ultimately, the conditioning part is just the suffering from spending long hours doing that. So people who are gym fit or strong in a sort of a ramp test sense. Doesn't necessarily give you the conditioning, which is the numbing of the hands, the backside, the neck, just the sheer attrition of spending that time in the saddle. But when you're cycling, if it gets too hard, you can get off the bike, go for a coffee. Whereas
in the channel
these other elements, if you stop, you stop. There's no putting your foot down, and I think that's the interesting bit about the high altitude mountaineering. The swimming. There's no just getting off the bike for a breather. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, on Everest, if I stopped for more than 30 seconds, I would have got frostbite. In the channel, I would have drowned. So that's why I knew. And it's not taking anything away from the cycling. It's so hard.
No, it's easy.
But
dead easy.
But exactly as you said, and people overthink the fitness, and I knew that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, it's
I know,
easy.
it's going to be easy.
No, as I say, it's definitely not. But subjectively, obviously, the cycling was the physically easiest part, if that makes sense. Because obviously, it was a race against the clock still, because I call it a race from England to Everest. So it was, because I had to get to Everest in time for the climbing season.
The climbing season, yeah.
Yeah, I literally, so it was a race. People were like, why are you calling it a race? I was like, well, because I literally have 5-6 months to get to Nepal, otherwise it's game over. 19 countries, logistics, breakages, injuries, illnesses, anything can happen. So I had to still hit a minimum kilometre target every day.
The Endurance Podcast is brought to you in partnership with Enjoy Travel. Huge thanks for all that they do. And I don't need to introduce my co-host, but over to Martin Mansell to explain Enjoy Travel.
So Enjoy Travel brings you car hire, hotels, airport parking lounges with a loyalty platform, meaning you buy 9, you get your 10th free. And you can mix and match across any range of our products. You don't need to just buy 10 car hire, you could buy a hotel, a car hire. And we're giving you a special discount code to celebrate our podcast, which is RID3R, as in rider, and you'll get up to 30% off everything.
So click on Enjoy Travel. It's been amazing for these epics. Makes our travel so much more enjoyable and seamless. So thanks, Martin. Thanks, Enjoy Travel. I'm interested in that climbing season bit and the different physicalities. The only comparison I've got is the Americas expedition, where I did 9 months from Alaska to Tierra del Fuego. And, it's a 13,000 mile ride. And, I was trying to get between Denali and Aconcagua within a single climbing season.
That is tough.
And people who don't know anything about climbing would say things like, oh, did you cycle up Denali? And I was like, no, I did not cycle up Denali.
Thick tyres needed for that.
Yeah, big tires. So, that's a proper sort of Arctic climb. And then, the relief from doing that as a standalone mountaineering expedition. And then I had 6 months basically to get down to Argentina. And whilst there was time, there was the time window to get to the climb. And then I found getting off the bike, the extremes from going from the Atacama Desert, being out in one of the driest places on the planet, to then, putting a backpack on and, putting all the rest of the kit on the mules, getting up to base camp and climbing.
Tough,
physically, it's just a totally different thing, because you're not weight bearing when you're on the bike.
Exactly, that's the whole thing. That for me was the biggest thing. Like after the channel, the whole question was, after a 13,000k, would the body then be able to physically climb Everest? But for me, it was the transition. It was going straight from an 11,920k bike ride straight into a 900k ultramarathon, having not ran 1 mile in 6 months, not a single mile. So with 2 knee surgeries, so I knew it was just going to be pain, and that transition was going to be the next most painful thing. So it was just codeine, naproxen, like limping, wallowing just to hit that 35k target. And then after a couple of weeks, it brought it up to like 40k, managed to get marathons in, and I just managed to hit that kind of average. As long as I hit that average, I was happy, and I just knew I just push through the pain and I'd get through it. But yeah, that, as you know, transitioning from one thing to the other, I knew that would be one of the biggest challenges. Would be this was technically a 5 sport expedition: swim, cycle, run, hike, climb. So the transition in between was painful to say the least.
And on the bike ride element of it, from France to India, that's correct. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
How, on average, how far were you riding each day, and what kind of feelings were you getting in your legs, and what pains? And
I was quite lucky with the niggles as well, because I hadn't had a bike fitting, nothing. Just completely got on the bike out and just 12,000k, just winged it. But I knew, so I was really worried, because obviously as I learned in America, you got the wrists, when you lose the feeling in your hands, and it's not the correct positioning. The niggles you don't think about, the back, the lower back, and I've had bad knees as well, so I was worried. But I was really lucky. That I had quite a bad back and wrist, but everything just kind of conditioned to it.
And how far were you riding per day on average?
Anything between like 130, 150k, about 140k was the average, because in the Middle East, when we had good roads, I'd done a couple like 220 days, but it was sustain. It was the mission was maintenance. It was like every day I felt like I could have pushed a bit more. No, stop. Because the whole question is I was working with Loughborough University and loads of people. The question was, as I said, can the human body climb Everest after a 13,000k triathlon? So I had to just hit that. It was maintenance. It was not pushing far enough to make the distance and make really good progress, but not going too far. So I'd always hit my minimum distance and go like an extra 10%, to kind of give myself a little bit of breathing room. Because if I absolutely killed it, it's great to have done really fast, because if I got there quicker, obviously, the more breathing room for logistical problems and all this kind of stuff. So it was really hard finding that balance between like pushing myself far enough. But so that kind of 140, 150 was like, was sustainable. But this was 4.5 months, 5 months every day. So it was, I'd do 5 days in a row, and then I'd have 24 hours just literally to stretch and then just repeat. because again, it was kind of maintenance, and being able to finish that bike ride in a position to then physically be able to run 900k, then trek 400, and then climb Everest.
Talk us a bit about the geopolitics, because
Yeah, I was
first time around the planet, I went through Turkey, Iran, Pakistan, India, the southern tier. Second time around the planet, went through Russia, Mongolia, China. Both of those routes have sort of been blocked off now.
It's completely gnarly.
And there's so many of the expeditions that I've done that you couldn't do now, and there's 3 people wanting to go for the round the world next year, and the problem is how you get through the Middle East and Asia.
It was always the question, and it was always the,
and especially with a military background,
exactly.
You've got to be super careful.
So the original plan was Iran.
Yeah.
That was the original plan. I had
which is
incredible.
Absolutely beautiful.
I've
One
got
of the
so
most
many friends in Iran.
welcoming countries I've
Absolutely,
ever cycled through.
Yeah. Well, I've got so many friends there. The culture, the people, everything's incredible. The landscape is just ruined by a few people in the government. It's unfortunate. And so my visa got turned off last second, basically, because of being in the military. And everyone I was speaking to, security, I had friends in the friends that ran now security companies and stuff, and everyone was like working in and around, just don't go in, because you'll get in probably, but you might not get out. And so it was kind of, again, we were cycling across Europe, Turkey, we still didn't know what was going to happen, and then it got turned off. So then it was either north, kind of through your route, or it was south. But if I went through south, it was annoying, because then if I went south for Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the entire Arabian Peninsula, it would then mean I'd have to try and find a boat and cross into Pakistan, which I didn't want to have to do. But bureaucracy what can you do with bureaucracy? So we in the end, because Afghan also didn't allow, and the time constraints we had, we went south, and I'm so happy we did, because Iraq, Kuwait, Saudi, the entire Middle East and the Arabic Peninsula was just one of the best things I've ever done, and it was incredible. I've now got great relations with Oman, running tours over there with the Ministry of Tourism, and even so many amazing people there. It's an amazing country. So I got to Oman, we were trying to hitchhike a dhow boat to get to Karachi, basically, and that didn't work in the end, even though we had meeting with the Foreign Minister, the Minister of Tourism, the CEO of the ports, the Crown Prince's office, the Indian ambassador, the Pakistani ambassador. It was just impossible. So it was really annoying. In the end, we had to take the few 100k to Karachi, but then we even drove back to Baluchistan, to the Iranian border, to continue exactly where I would have crossed over. In the end, I'd done over 1,000k over my original estimation. So it was meant to be Limitless 12,000k to Everest. It turned into Limitless 13,157k to Everest, just because of them logistical nightmares. But it is what it is. When bureaucracy gets in the way, I didn't care about official, it was my own dream, doing it for me. And if I hadn't been in the Marines, or if it was a different climate, I would have gone across Iran, which I wanted to do. It was just improvise, adapt, overcome. That's literally all you can do. And we had to just fight through as we did, and there's always a solution. No matter how hard something is, there's always a solution, and everything happens for a reason. Genuinely, I'm so thankful to have gone through Iraq, best country for people in the whole world. Pakistan, Saudi, UAE, Oman especially, it was just incredible. But then there was so much more crazy stuff in Pakistan. It was it was a logistical nightmare at times, but it was incredible. Long story short, we were told we'd be able to. I was promised by the Indian ambassador in Muscat that I'd be able to get my Indian visa at the High Commission in Islamabad, and they wrote a letter and everything. Great. So I cycled obviously from Baluchistan 1,700k all the way to Lahore, to the Wagah border, and then obviously from there we drove up to Islamabad, because it's not en route. We drove up to Islamabad, and they didn't even know we were coming. So you can't cross that border with an e-visa. You have to have a physical visa. And I wish they'd told us back in Oman, because all we could have done in Muscat is taken a £100 return flight to Mumbai, got the stamp, come back, continued, and then when I got to the border, I could have crossed. But instead, but we had a great idea, because you've got the Wagah border ceremony, the dance ceremony. Yeah. So I thought, right, okay, so I had to, after cycling, obviously, the whole way from 1,700k across Pakistan, we cycled right up to the Wagah border on the Pakistani side, touched the gate, watched it from the Pakistani side. Then we had to take a 2,000k detour. So we had to come back to Lahore, fly to Dubai, because there's no direct flights between Pakistan and India, because they hate each other. I had to take a flight to Dubai, back to Amritsar, which is only 50k across the border, come back to watch it from the Indian side, touch the border. So I was literally, I was about 3 meters away from where I was 24 hours before in Pakistan, and then carried on the ride.
It's a no man's land. So for those that don't know where we're talking about, so the Punjab is in both the Pakistani and the Indian side, and I have cycled across that. It's, as you say, it's a couple of 100 meters.
Yeah.
They've got the ceremony on both sides,
Yeah.
but they never really talk to each
But
other.
we got within like a few meters of the gate, literally
Yeah.
within 3 meters of where I was 24 hours
Can't
before. And it was like, but I was close enough. I'm sure people won't penalise me too much, you know what I mean?
No,
so
no.
carried on from there, and then realised I'd left my front wheel in Pakistan. Yeah, it was really, yeah, so I was lucky, because I say I was meant to be completely like on my own. I obviously had a few bags on the bike, but because I had this stand-by cameraman with me, we always had like a vehicle to kind of film and stuff. So when I was in Calais, I just bought a pretty bad bike from Decathlon, like as a spare, just in case there was a major setback, I could just get on the other one and just keep on churning the miles out. So look, I hadn't really used it that much, a little bit across Serbia, Bulgaria and Turkey. But luckily, yeah, so we got, after all this kerfuffle with 2,000k detour to cover 40k, got to the place and I was like, finally, okay, we're finally in India, big relief, you know. Got the bike out the box. I had to fly 2 bikes in 2 boxes, nearly didn't let us. Imagine the logistical nightmare of that, you know what it's like. And got the bike out, I left the front wheel in fucking Lahore. So luck, but by some miracle, the front wheel of this Triben bike, the front wheel from that fit onto my main bike, and I used that for the remaining to 3,000k, and somehow I managed to get away with it. And then when we finished the bike ride in India, we then went to stayed at an orphanage, and we gave both bikes away to the kids at this orphanage. So it worked out in the end. It was crazy, but it was just someone was looking down on me. Dad was looking down on me. Dad was looking down on me. Yeah.
Amazing.
So there was some crazy times.
So we're in the amazing Lake District.
Yeah, I love it here.
Beautiful weather today. It's grey, it's cloudy, foggy, it's raining.
Wish it was still cold and clear. That's the best weather, isn't it?
So it'd be hard not to talk about the training you did, where you swam every lake and ran between each lake.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through that a bit?
Yeah, again, kind of my thought process was, you know, train hard, fight easy. It's like you train harder than the actual event. Same as like when I say in school, study hard and the exams are easy. You know what I mean? So I thought if I put myself through it, and you sink more in fresh water than salt water, obviously. And I sink like a rock, honestly. Like if I can't float, I literally just, I'm gone. So it was a bit silly because it was only 1 month, literally 1 month before the channel. So I thought would swim. Yeah. So obviously when I've done my research, there's 11 swimmable lakes in the Lake District, starting with Windermere. The other few are reservoirs, so you can't actually legally swim in that. And it was all going to be covered. You know, we were filming it, so I couldn't go and swim in the reservoir. So there's 11 lakes you can swim, starting with Windermere. And so I just kind of mapped it out myself. I was originally going to go from biggest to smallest, but geographically it didn't work out like that. So I swam Windermere, you know, like then ran to Coniston. Obviously it was over 6 days, so I swam Windermere, ran to Coniston, slept, woke up, swam Coniston, and just did that back to back for all 11 lakes.
And it's worth checking out your socials from this, because, you know, obviously for swimming the channel, you're swimming without a wetsuit.
Yeah.
So then you're swimming all the lakes.
No wetsuit either. Yeah. And Ullswater, I tell you, was the first 4K of Ullswater is 13.5 degrees. So this was, I'd already swam Windermere, Coniston, and the 3 more before I got to Ullswater. And that's 14k or 15k on its own. The first 3, because all the runoff from the south of the lake near Patterdale all runs into the south of Ullswater, and so it's like literally 3 degrees colder south end of the lake. And my friend Tommy, he's ex-GB kayaker, he was just my safety for the whole thing, giving me my water and feeds. And I was about an hour and a half into the swim, and then I was just going. Hypothermia, I was just going down, so I had to swim to the rocks, put my dry robe on that I had in the bag. I'd done 100 burpees in the dry robe, got back in, and then had to continue another 2.5 hours to finish the swim. And that was the hardest day, that was, yeah. And I had massive tendonitis, my wrist was completely swollen, I was in such agony, but I thought, just kind of that peace of mind, if I can get through that, if I can do this, then it would just give me the confidence going into the channel. But it was really silly because I couldn't swim for 2 weeks because I completely messed up my body, and my tendonitis had come in, very common long distance swimming injury. And the physio was like, you're a bloody idiot. But it gave me that confidence, you know what I mean? Again, I knew didn't know what I was going to go in for, but it meant I came into the channel with that kind of extra kind of grit that I needed to crack on.
And did that tendonitis carry on through in the month?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it kind of just cleared up before the channel, and then obviously about 5 hours into the channel it came back. So I had that, my rotator cuff, my tongue, my drowning. It was just kind of like all these little things kept on going.
What,
But
in that last 5 hours then,
Yeah.
when there was a chance you might not be able to make it
Yeah.
because of all the things that were happening,
Yeah.
what was going through your mind there? What dark thoughts?
I
were you
just managed.
thinking?
I was just lucky to bring it back. Everything was like, day one, it's all going to be over. All these doubts and fears, but it all comes back to like what I talk about in the book. The power of compartmentalization is chapter 7. Being able to I brought it back and I counted strokes from 1 to 1,000 back to 0. And I just kept on doing that, and that was it. And I thought, Purpose Beyond Self is the last chapter. Thinking about, I just literally would go through my mind the things I'm doing it for. I'm here for my dad. I'm here for me. I'm here for the charity. I'm here for people who are being inspired. And I just literally flick through them in my mind. People talk about what resilience is. All it is your strategic ability to manage pain. So I would literally just flick through these channels in my head while staring down into the dark nothingness, and it would just go back. I'd just go back to 0 every single breath. When I'd come up, like I'd imagine my dad leaning across the boat, screaming at me, come on, boy, you can do it.
These are all quite positive motivations. They're quite affirming motivations. They're things that you work for.
Yeah.
I think we're all wired up differently.
Yeah, we are.
And I'm often negatively motivated.
Yeah.
So I can be inspired when I'm sitting with a cup of coffee and I'm planning a trip. But when I'm out there, the fear of failure is real.
Yeah, of course, it's the biggest one.
So yes, you can be inspired by X, Y, and Z, but I always try and encourage people that you don't always have to try and find a place where it's like positive mindset, because actually sometimes when it's dark as hell, it's good to acknowledge that it's dark.
Definitely.
And not to pretend that, I always joke, don't give me some inspirational quote. I don't know what to do with that. Tell me the consequence of failing, and that accountability around what I don't want to be.
It's more powerful sometimes.
And running away from the failure is actually more powerful than some... Because
Definitely.
I think when you're down, pretending you're up
it's counterproductive.
It's counterproductive.
Yeah.
It's
If you can have that perfect balance between the kind of fear of, like you said, the negative fear of failure, and the, I had that a lot as well. Yeah.
It's okay to be not okay. Like when you're out there to cry if you want to cry is absolutely fine.
Exactly. I cried my eyes out when I finished, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But like you say, it's kind of that, it's just getting out there, and it doesn't have to be big. Like chapter 5 is proportionality. It doesn't matter. Your 5K walk is as amazing as somebody else's ultramarathon. It doesn't have to be the Channel or Windermere, you know what I mean? Go out, have a cold dip. And like you said, it all comes down to simply just doing something uncomfortable that pushes you a little bit out of your comfort zone. And the only way you can kind of find this perfect balance that we're talking about is by just getting in that position and experiencing it for yourself and figuring it out for yourself. Everyone's got their own formula. Like I say, like chapter 1 is redefining possible. Everyone's journey to redefining their possible it's different for everyone, but the same fundamental steps, foundations are there for everyone. Taking small, tiny, incremental steps, not thinking about the big picture, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, and then just basically allowing that to happen, and then just figuring out your why, your purpose beyond self, and just pushing through it.
I'm really keen that, clearly, we'll if we covered all your adventures, we'd run over, and I want people to read the book. You've already alluded to the book. What does it go from having all these amazing expeditions and adventures and charity projects to then sitting down and trying to capture it in a book? Because I've been through that a bunch of times, and we all love the idea of being authors. The reality is that's an expedition in itself.
It is. Yeah. It's the hardest expedition.
You've just been through it with your partner. It takes a team around you to do an expedition. It really takes a team to write a book. So
massively.
So you've been chatting about some of the chapters. It doesn't sound like this is a chronology of your life.
No.
So how have you
originally, I was cycling across India and Pakistan when I was writing down the kind of a proposal for a book, and I changed it. And we sent it to had a friend who was an agent, and then he said, "This is great. This is a little bit too autobiographical. What would be really great?" And my main aim for doing it is to try and inspire as many people as possible, especially young people who don't believe that they're that it's possible. So I just with the help of my partner, who's amazing, we reframed it into a mindset self-help book. So I never wanted it to be chapter 1 swim, chapter 2 cycle, chapter 3 run. Boring. Like, no one wants to see a retelling of just a story which has been told, and it's all been documented. The documentary is coming as well. So it's more people want to know the how, the why, the how. So I kind of broke it down into the book's called Limitless: 9 Pillars to Unlock an Extraordinary Human Potential. So I just broke it down into 9 pillars that helped me get through. I'm no psychologist. I'm not an expert in psychology, but this was just my version of how I got through it, how the steps that helped me, and my I only aim for this is for it to be as relatable to, it doesn't matter if you're a 12-year-old kid or you're a 50-year-old man. Chapter 1 is redefining possible. Adversity equals power. The Anatomy of Resilience, Cheerfulness in the Face of Adversity, Purpose Beyond Self, and let's play Proportionality. All of these are the chapters. Each one of them is a lesson, the power of compartmentalization. That whole chapter is about how breaking things down into manageable steps works. And then it goes on. Of course, I use it. There's a bit of chronological order in there. It kind of runs along the expedition to show how I did it, but it's just, I want it to be relatable for people that, sat there. They read about, chapter 9, Purpose Beyond Self, all about how we do things for more than just ourselves, But it's important to say that, the most important person you should be doing any expedition for is yourself. You're the most important person, and that's why, like in Proportionality, talking about, especially for kids, how you're the hero of your own story, Do not listen to these idiots on Instagram or TikTok, or nor your friends. You're the most important person. You're the hero of your own story. So it's all about these lessons of just showing people, mainly that you haven't got to be some superhuman, Superman, Superwoman, or a gifted athlete to achieve the impossible. It's just all belief. I grew up on a council estate, ADHD. I was told I wouldn't be able to. My friends and family thought I was probably in prison by the time I was 15. I was told by doctors and everyone I couldn't do it. Obviously no money when I started. It's just to prove that, even an ADHD kid can go on to complete the longest climb of Everest in history. That's the whole aim of the book. For you to come out of it and just be like, see yourself in the story. It's as simple as that. You haven't got to be Superman, Superwoman. That's the main aim. For people to relate to each chapter, to take, same with my talks now, the book is just the talk is just a condensed version of the book, going through all these steps, all these pillars, and it's great. People come out of it now and they're like, I'm going to go and apply this to myself now, It doesn't matter if you come into work on a Monday morning, people come into work and they think, oh fuck, Friday's a long way away. If you think about the big picture, when you think about the end of an expedition, your mind gets blown. But when you bring it back to 1 second at a time, one step at a time, that's it. After the channel, the only way I got through that bike ride, I broke it down into 20 minutes. I had set an alarm. I had a 20-minute timer. So at 20 minutes, no matter where I was, in some dodgy places, I'd get off the bike, touch my toes, go like that, break my wrists, that was it. So I never had to think further than 20 minutes at a time. Before you knew it, I was in India and I'd cycled 12,000 K. And it sounds stupid, but it just goes to show that these simple foundations, these simple, you haven't got to dive into the intricacies of the psychology, which it blows some people's minds, It's just, so for me, long story short, waffle, ADHD, apologies. But long story short, it's just, it's kind of my main aim is for it to be this relatable book.
I think the relatability is important because theory and
it's great,
but theory without practice is annoying.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
What I love is that you've lived it, you've done it, and now you're trying to find the words to explain it.
It's just tried and tested.
And I think the whole genre of sort of self-help and the psychological pillars, and I'm fascinated by. But I always start from the point of credibility. Do something to know yourself and then try and share it in a way that makes sense.
Exactly.
So love it, absolutely love it.
No, thank you. Cheers, guys.
So next year, moving on a little bit, 'cause probably don't.
Yeah, no, it's great. That's all right. We'll be here for 2 hours, but I'd love that. But we don't. We're
I'd love
get
to
kicked
too.
out.
Yeah.
So next summer, I'm planning the trilogy of my adventures.
Awesome.
So it's been year 1, 2, and next year's it's got to get bigger every year. That was the idea. So we're going to cycle from
Steps,
Nordkapp.
mate.
Exactly.
That's it.
Cycle from Nordkapp at the top of Norway.
Awesome.
The highest the furthest north you can get by road in Europe, to Tarifa. The furthest south you can get by road in Europe. It's about, I always work in miles, but everyone's talking in kilometres today.
Yeah,
So I think it's about 5,600 kilometres.
Yeah.
We'll be going, 350 kilometres a day to try and do it in 16 days.
360. Oof.
Sorry?
Did you say 360 a day?
360.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
350 kilometres a day. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Ouch.
16 hours on the bike.
No, thank
on
you.
average.
Yeah.
Something like that. That's what it's looking
Amazing effort, that.
like. What would be so we've got still 8 months to train, to plan. There's still a hell of a lot of planning to be done.
When this podcast goes out, it will be like next week. But
Yeah.
well, as we
Yeah.
record it,
Yeah.
that makes it real.
That's incredible, mate.
Well,
That's
we'll
really,
be able
really,
to look
really cool.
back to this conversation, I guess, at that point.
We need your book. That's what we need.
They are. Yeah,
Can
please.
you make sure your book comes out before we?
I'll try my best, mate. Hopefully, it can give you a bit of a push. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That'd
exactly.
be grand. For sure.
What would you have any key watch outs, key warnings, key focuses for us to think? I'm not going to ask about all the things we should think about in planning or the top tips, but any key key warnings or focuses that we should be thinking about over the next 8 months?
To get up, just to get you through, do you mean, kind of thing, or like
anything that we might not have thought about. Cycle 12,000.
You probably, I mean, to be honest, you have probably. I know, again, a lot of it was just kind of test and adjust and improvise and adapt. I would just say you probably got more experience than me when it comes to the cycling element of things. But no, all I can advise is, as you know, just take it a day at a time, and you'll be absolutely fine. Don't think about anything past that. 360k, nothing past it, and then you'll smash it. You know what I mean?
It's interesting that you've always made a big play of the charities that you support.
Yeah.
That and your dogs.
Yeah. See, I've got in 2 weeks I've got a challenge coming up for the dogs, 16 back-to-back marathons.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Dogs.
Yeah, so I rescued a dog 2 months.
Rescued
the dog 2 months ago.
16 back-to-back marathons.
Yeah, rescued a dog 2 months ago, a cocker spaniel, and it's inspired me to the Great British Dog Walk. So I'm from the lowest part of the UK. So from the post where I went to school, it literally says the lowest point. So I'm just running from the lowest to the highest point, 700k, 16 back-to-back marathons to get as many dogs rescued as possible. We're partnering with dozens of dog rescue centres along the way. Anyone, please come along and join. Live track is going to be on, and we're going to be walking.
You come to Scotland?
Yeah, please come.
When are you doing this?
Cool.
Please, mate. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Starts from the 3rd to the 19th of December, hopefully. And please come along, get as many people as possible. Close. So we're kind of going Edale, Manchester way. So it won't be far away. So pretty much it's not too far off the thing for everyone. So please come. So I'm going to be hanging out. It's going to be slow. It's going to be speed march, basically. I'm going to have a pack on.
And can we bring the dog?
Yeah, especially bring the dogs.
Magic.
Yeah. I want to make this the Forrest Gump of dog walks.
Yeah, on it.
So anyway, sorry. So yeah, please come along.
And again, to go back to the big ride with Martin next year,
That's quality.
I was inspired by, you did a big ride around Ireland with my
with
pal Ali McCoist and co.
Oh, Ali I love him so much.
Yeah, I mean,
he's an absolute legend.
Yeah,
I'm hoping Ali will join us in the walk.
I'm impressed with your bike riding. I'm much more impressed with his.
Oh my God, he's incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. He had a couple of nasty falls. I was next to him talking at one point. Next thing you know, he's on the floor. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God. And it was crazy. I'd only been back 2 weeks there, 3 weeks. And my friend asked me, Ian, a legend, the king of chemo, some of you may have heard of him. He said, do you want to come?
He talks faster than you do.
He does, yeah.
I think so.
I think I'm bad. No, he just said, do you fancy a 800k ride around Ireland? And I was like, no, okay, sounds amazing. And an incredible Dolly's Foundation. And it was just a great cause, great people, and so thankful for that. And Ali, what a man.
I mean, I had the pleasure of knowing Doddy, and Rob Wainwright and I kicked off a ride during the Six Nations back in 2019, which has got bigger and bigger each year.
I remember seeing that.
Yeah, and it's still going strong. So hugely grateful for you leaning into the foundation. It's going to be one of the beneficiaries from the big ride that Martin and I are doing next year. So good on you, bud.
No worries. I just wish I'd come in earlier on the expedition to be able to fully support it. But it's an incredible cause, and all the guys around it are amazing.
So you've done an amazing job clearly on the expats, but you're big on the storytelling as well. You've built a legion of support on social media, on Instagram.
Bit of luck.
No, not at all. No, you tell great stories. But that charity element, it's interesting that you made the comment about you have to do it for you, first and foremost. Because I always say to people, it's a very British mentality. When you do a challenge, you have to do it for charity. And I always say to people, if you want to do it for charity, that's amazing. But don't feel you have to validate your challenge with a charitable element. And for Martin, clearly this has been hugely important. Martin said to me, look, from the start, I want to support local, I want to support national. That's why
it's personal.
You chosen the Yorkshire's Children's Charity. But how do you balance that? Because you do have a platform now, and you do have the opportunity to support some amazing causes.
I mean, I've always said, I get a lot of the hard work that came from Stan and my team, you know what I mean? I was just, luckily I waffled along and it turned out well. So it's really hard to balance it, like you said, but I just think, like you said, the most important person is you, no matter what, is you. But I also think if you have any type of social media following, you have an obligation to do good with it. So I'm really excited now to be able to, I now have an opportunity where I can do something and
we should tell the tech platforms that.
That's every single person, anyone that has any following, you have to do good with it. It's as simple as that, and that excites me now. People are like, "What's next?" It's like, well, now I can do I can do expeditions, and of course, like I say to everyone, having that purpose beyond self, which is the last chapter, is so important. Having these personal causes for yourself, but you're the hero of your own story, and if you're not doing it for yourself, and there's no point. And there's nothing wrong with standing up there. Don't want to be one of these idiots to stand up and be like, "I'm doing this for charity. I'm just doing it for other people." I think that's the most important thing. You know, find that balance of doing it for yourself, but finding them personal causes that you really care about, no matter how small. You know, this expedition, I'm not doing it for a charity on this 16 marathon dog walk. I'm literally just doing it for dogs, and we're putting up a wish list for all the dog centres along the way for people to donate and buy all the dogs stuff for Christmas and winter. So you haven't always got to just do it for, you know, for that. So yeah, I think waffle over. Just find that balance. Find that balance between personal objective and purpose beyond, and that purpose beyond yourself. And
it's far from a waffle. I've absolutely loved this conversation.
No,
Me too.
I appreciate it. I hope everyone's enjoyed it.
Any last thoughts, Martin?
What's next? Can you go bigger?
Do the book. I'm out of it bigger. We'll see. For me, it was never about, you know, big. This was simply me combining a promise I made to my dad and my nan when I was 6, and just kind of completing all my childhood dreams. You know, when I planned it, I didn't even know it was the longest climb of Everest in history or world record until a year after I planned it. It was only when someone said to me, you know, you should really film this. So for me, it's never been about, you know, what's next, bigger or better. Now I'm just so excited to use this platform to do. I've already done about 20 schools to continue doing this, continue doing charities, work to help the thing. But I've got obviously the book, the documentary, hopefully, this challenge coming up. But after that, yeah, there is some really good stuff coming. There's some other, you know, there's Antarctica coming up. There's hopefully I've got the 7 summits to do soon. Everyone from sea level. There's lots of good stuff coming.
Wowzers!
And I'd love for you to get involved, boys, if you can. For some. But yeah,
I'd love to get involved as well.
Lots coming in the horizon. I'm also going to start. I want to start the Limitless Foundation as well. So this was Limitless 13,000 to Everest. So my plan next year is to start the Limitless Foundation, which is a 100% free mental health adventure and wellness retreat for anyone suffering. Just literally led by me. Just getting out. As I said, doesn't matter proportionality. Get in the dip for the first time. Go for a hike when you've never been for a hike for 2K. It doesn't matter. It's just getting people kind of in that mindset and getting people out.
I was inspired when I was a kid by I can't remember when they did it, Everest Max, which was sort of the early version of what you did. You went much, much further, but that was the lowest to highest. That was the first time anyone had ever gone from sea level to Everest. And then, you know, what you took on in the last couple of years just took it to a whole other level. But what I've taken from this conversation is not the physical journey, which is interesting, and I followed it when you did it, but I'm looking forward to reading the book. But that wider purpose that you talk about so brilliantly, and getting you on the podcast is awesome. It's exactly at the heart of what we're trying to do with endurance. And you know, what Martin and I are trying to do is, these amazing rides. We've got Hamish in the audience here. He'll be joining us in the big epic next year. But beyond the events, what's the wider purpose to it? The storytelling, giving other people quiet confidence, some of the causes involved. So, I mean, I can see some scary commonalities between you two. I mean, unbelievable in terms of the way
We work together.
the way.
I even tore my
you
ACL.
Say again?
I even tore my ACL 3 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want you to beat my time, please, on Limitless. You need to go back and do it. I will be with you for a little bit of it, and I'll shake your hand, I promise.
And the thing I hear loud and clear is the only person you're really in competition with is yourself.
Basically.
Yeah, love it.
That's it.
Well, I've loved this conversation. I hope our live audience has, and we're going to put it out next year. But without further ado, huge thank you to Mitch. Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks so much.
Super.